It's a program called Boyz-2-Men, essentially helps boys and young men think critically about manhood and masculinity, and more importantly, helping them to discover themselves, who they are, and I suppose giving them the freedom to think about what kind of men they want to be in today's world. They are bombarded with these sort of terms, toxic masculinity. That just implies to them and those around them that it's essentially toxic to be a man, or, masculinity in itself is toxic. And it certainly isn't. I hate that term. There's nothing wrong with using that term in a different context. Toxic behavior, this person may be toxic, but when you start to use toxic in relation to masculinity, it just creates this world that it's actually toxic to be a man. And that's not the starting point that we want to move forward from. We want to build boys up. We want to help them regain self-worth and boost their motivation and guide them and direct them. The problem is when they're labeled, then you get resistance and pushback. And again, it's just so unhelpful. It really is. They're about creating a safe space and essentially have conversations, talk to them about their views and opinions on masculinity. We can have open conversations about the struggles and the issues that they face in today's world. We can talk about the images or portrayals of what they see online. We get to unpack masculinity in itself and start to really focus on actually what does it mean to be a man in today's world, and being a middle-aged man that's a lot older than the boys I work with, I still haven't figured it out. There isn't an answer, and that's what we're trying to get at. We're trying to help boys discover who they want to be. Lots of them are grappling with what they think it is to be a man and trying to sort of live up to this archetypal version of a man, and that would be the obvious forms that you would associate young boys to think of, being strong, being tough, being brave. That's not to say that they are not good qualities in, pushed in the right direction, but when we start to think about other aspects of masculinity, they are usually more hidden. So being in touch with their emotions, finding strength through being vulnerable, these are things that boys struggle with. They're trying to find their way. Now, obviously, lots of young people have quite big online lives, and what they may be lacking or missing or being confused about in their offline life, they can try to get some direction in the online world. So that's where these influencers now start to play a role. Boys relate to these people because they are the person that sometimes fill in the gap that's missing in their life. They are saying they understand them. They are saying that they've got their back, essentially. The problem is some of these influencers have got some positive things to say to boys. And this is what grabs them. Work hard, have good work ethic, be fit, be healthy, earn money. These could potentially be great things that can inspire children and young people to succeed in life. And that's what grabs them. But then it starts with these positive messages, but then it suddenly starts to change into the world's against you, crazy conspiracy theories, giving them advice on relationships, women are your property and things like that. And that's where it gets so more harmful. So what we try to do with boys when we look at the content and the images and portrayals of what they see about masculinity online is really getting them to think critically about these messages and who these people are. Let's start to look inwards. What makes a good man? It's essentially what makes a good human. And this is where they start to think about what's on the inside. So looking at their values, looking at what actually makes a good person, and then they can start to think about interactions, having empathy, being a kind, respectful person. And that then all starts to move away from these sort of stereotypical masculine visual traits, big, strong, tough, and it gets them to start to think about, well, actually, it's what's inside that counts. That's going to shape my interactions. That's going to shape my friendships and relationships moving forward. And that transcends across all genders. It's just being a nice person that's in touch with your emotions, trying to build emotional literacy, which is a skill that we need to develop in young people and boys. That can sometimes be a bit of a mission, but it's helping them understand themselves. It's helping them understand how to have positive interactions and helping them to understand that actually they have a lot to give and a lot to offer. And generally, that all comes down to what's on the inside. As I said, their values and attitudes towards others. And this is what we really try to shape all of our work and sessions with boys is be open to having conversations, always try to be positive, and that may mean that you are hearing something that is could be potentially quite worrying, but always try to look at the positive outcomes through having these conversations, and definitely be curious. That is the best way that people that are interacting with boys on a professional level, parents of boys at home, be inquisitive, get them to share with you. We need to open up the room for conversation. We need to ask children questions and give them the opportunity to share with us. From that starting point, now you can start to unpick the pros and cons. You can start to guide them. And again, you can then start to help them think critically about what they say, what they believe. And again, through sort of gentle guiding, help them discover actually, I did say that, but I didn't really mean all of it. I just meant a tiny little bit of it. So it's all about conversation. It really is.